to the Awudome cemetery to give them a befitting burial there. From there, we go for another body at the Rich Hospital. That is 2 bodies there, and do the same to them.
So we are blitzing through the streets of Accra, headed for the Awudome cemetery. You can hear from the background the sirens blaring, the hearses and the ambulances, and this is an exercise being heavily supervised by the Public Health Directorate of the Accra Metropolitan Assembly. So this is the Awudome cemetery here in Accra, where the bodies of the persons infected with COVID are going to be interred. And a short time ago, the hearses and the ambulance brought the bodies here. We met, some relatives of the individuals who has succumbed to the virus present here. They are standing, on the road shoulders, looking on as the environmental workers go ahead with the exercise. I will attempt to get a quick word from Mr. Asitanga just before they finish this particular phase of the exercise. Mr. Asitanga, yes. We see this is not an easy exercise at all.
Yes, it's terrible. It's a challenge. So you can see the hectic work that we're going through here. This is not only today. We started this from the last 7 days up to today. We are still on it. Lot is there. We persistently carry this exercise every week. And today we're burying 5 at a go. We're going to bury more. We only want to alert the public. The COVID is there. The COVID is real, and therefore protect yourself. Observe the national protocol measures to protect yourself, protect your family, and let's protect the country image as a whole.
I see this is not easy. You are sweating. I am suffocating because I've not done this before. But you people do this every time, and that is what we are seeing here, witnessing at first hand the burial process of persons who are inflicted. So 3 caskets, 3 coffins of 3 individuals, breadwinners possibly, husbands, fathers, brothers, uncles, just lay there in those coffins. So they will do that and then do the third.
1, 2.
So it's just been lowered into the grave. The second one has been lowered into the grave. And then the third. And right after the coffins have been lowered into the graves, the family members, a few of them, will be allowed here to observe, of course, their last respects or pay their final respects to their relatives. You were telling me about some challenge you have when you are doing this particular exercise.
Yes, the burial. The challenges we have is enormous. These bodies, they are infectious bodies, which we don't have to use the public haste in transporting the bodies to this infectious zone. We have made appeal to the state, the government, to support us with a movable and befitting double cabin pickups that we can always carry these bodies safely to the burial site. You can see that the movement room where we will bring the bodies to is a serious challenge. There is no adequate space for movement. Coming into the place is difficult, and the hearse has to stop at the end of the entrance. The officers have to carry this body. Imagine how heavy it is with these 3 stumps. There's the possibility and high risk of infection to the officers that this body is placed in, and it moves closer to the grave space. We will have easy way of removing the body and placing it safely.
Even some of the officials who were in the buckets, this all adds to the whole transport system
risk. You can see that when we are transporting the bodies from the mortuary, because of inadequate transport facility for the department, you see that they were all hung in the bucket. Very serious risk. We are appealing, with all apologies, we are appealing whoever is responsible to support the Metro Public Health of AMA, the Environmental Health Department, Metro Public Health Department, with a movable truck, quick equipment, double cabin pickup, very special, of which we can easily transport these bodies here. We have to improvise the means of bringing the bodies here. We have to improvise the means of laying the bodies to rest.
And that's Komla Dum's report, very detailed report there, but there's more, Emefa, and Komla joins us in the studio. Komla, first of all, I know you have a lot more to tell us, but as an individual, as a citizen, seeing all that today, what was running through your mind?
Ernest, I get surprised when I hear people say, for example, that they do not believe that COVID is real. I've been doing a lot of work in this area covering COVID, and so I have seen firsthand people who have been infected. I have seen people who
from
have
the ICU to the cemetery.
And I have now seen people being literally buried, after succumbing to the disease. So for me,
it's been a reality check for me from day one. The first time I stepped foot at the UGMC to do the story about the people who were infected. So I mean, this afternoon was a climax of everything that I have been covering since, and it is real. I mean, those were 3 or 4 or 5 male, parents, husbands, people's relatives who are just gone, because the disease took them away, really.
Very, very sad. But Komla, we understand that the families who came along, there was some protest from them. Tell us about it.
So expectedly, some of these relatives, when they see the media, they get agitated. So once they saw us around, first at 37 Military Hospital, they started agitating, murmuring here and there. Some even approached us and asked that we shouldn't film them. We assured them that we're not filming them because we know the issue of stigma is one big problem we are trying to deal with. And the moment the identities of these relatives go out there, we know the kind of treatment they're going to get from their community folk, etc. And so we assured them that we're not going to film them. But they didn't appear satisfied enough. Now, they had other concerns as well. Beyond they not getting filmed, some of them still believe that they are not being told the truth. For example, some of them told me they do not believe their relative died of COVID because one of them said their uncle had been ill for 2 years and was under treatment at the hospital, etc.
So it's likely that this person died with underlying health conditions, and
absolutely,
that is why.
So on that basis, they feel they are not being told the truth, and so that's at the 37 Military Hospital. We went to the Apawu Cemetery. There, some of the relatives were waiting for the entourage to arrive with the bodies. And once they heard the sirens blaring, they started chanting, they started shouting. They didn't want us to be around. Inspector Asitanga had to get down and go and literally ward them off the entrance of the cemetery before the hearses were able to get in, and then they went to bury their bodies. And then at the Rage Hospital, that was where a lot of drama unfolded, Ernest and Emefa. These are, you could see, emotionally charged relatives. They would not have anything of what anybody is saying. Helen insults us as banging our vehicle. They just wanted us out of the place because, one, they're traumatized that they had lost a relative. 2, they also had a concern that their relative didn't die of COVID. They say it was the second time a relative of theirs had died at the facility, and they have been told it was of COVID.
Why didn't they show them any proof of death, for instance, or to show that indeed they died of COVID?
According to what they tell us, nothing of it. So it's just by word of mouth.
Okay.
And then their concern again is that if you say that our relatives died of COVID, why haven't you come to the house to find out who else is at home with them, to test them, for example, so we know that they may have not spread the disease to other members of the family and stuff like that.
That is interesting because usually there will be contact tracing, and you'd expect that their families will be contacted.
But these people tell us that none of that has happened, and that is what solidifies their point in their words, that somebody is not telling them the truth, and so they had to. We literally had to run for our lives from the Rage Hospital earlier today.
Is this your first time at the cemetery, Komla?
No, not my first time, but my first time in this circumstance.
Of course, you're going to bury someone who is not your relative.
Yes.
But really, what processes did you go through? I heard you at some point saying that you were suffocating in the PPEs.
We have been told by the health officials that at that stage, you are still not safe.
Okay.
You are not out of the woods. And so the precautions up to the minute detail, right from the AMA offices where we were, from the mixing of the chlorine, on the journey through Kaukudi, through to Apawu Cemetery, we were all in PPEs, our nose mask, our head mask. My cameraman, for example, was struggling to even use his thumb to click on the knobs on the camera because he was also wearing his gloves and his PPE. It was a lot of drama, a lot of things happening. On the midday news, I remember when you called me, I had to put my phone on loudspeaker before I could speak because I couldn't hear anything, and I had to be screaming on top of my voice so you could hear me. It was some experience.
And those of us who know Komla, he virtually or literally baths with the sanitizer. So
that's what I should do,
So we know that we are protected.
That you're fine.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Komla. Great report there. Now, let's stay on COVID-related matters. This time, the ranking member on the Parliament Health Committee, Kwabena Minta Kando, he says that Ghana's healthcare system may soon become overwhelmed by the many cases of COVID-19. Now, he told a news conference in Parliament today that disclosures by officials at the Ga East Treatment Center at the facilities receiving more symptomatic cases is evidence the country is losing the fight against COVID-19.
Well, head of our health desk, Fred Smith, who first reported this, noted that more COVID-19 positive persons are now being hospitalized. There's more on the following report.
150 new cases in the last 24 hours is the least number of cases Ghana has recorded in the past week. The country has recorded up to around 300 cases on a daily basis, many of these showing symptoms of the infection, contrary to how the virus has behaved in the past 2 months of the outbreak in the country. Health officials are worried about the new trend. Listen to Medical Director at the Ghanese Municipal Hospital's COVID-19 Treatment Center, Dr. Ebenezer Odro-Mensah.
Now, what we realize is more people are getting ill from COVID-19. We used to see a lot more asymptomatic persons in the past, but now we are seeing more symptomatic people now, which is a worry. It shows that more people are staying home till they are really ill before they present to the health facility and are diagnosed with COVID. If you are home and you have a fever, you have a cough, you have difficulty breathing, please don't just stay at home or buy paracetamol from the drugstore. Get to a health facility, get the appropriate clinical diagnosis, and if it's COVID, you can start treatment early so that you can have a full recovery. I want to avoid deaths from COVID in Ghana.
Joy News understands all treatment centers in Accra are now stretched as a result of the situation, and some health professionals who've tested positive have been told to go home and self-isolate or go to Cape Coast for treatment. Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Patrick Abwaje, however, denies this.
In our work, there are times that our surges may come for about 2-3 days, and then everybody gets alarmed that people are coming, then it stops. And so currently, as at the last time, Ghana East has a capacity of 100 beds. As of yesterday, we had about 62 patients there. So there are days that you see a few more cases and then it stops. So these are surges. So we normally would do a weekly average, a moving average. That's when you can already say you are sort of congested. But it is when you start seeing a few more cases unusual in a particular day, you get a bit worried. But then if it's not sustained, then that's okay.
But pharmacist and fellow at the Center for Democratic Development, Dr. Kwame Esiedu-Sapong, says he has information to support the report that the country's health systems may be indeed stretched.
We are hearing that more people are coming to hospital with symptoms, which means that they would require treatment in treatment centers. These are people that you cannot take to the isolation centers.
Joy News sources also say there's no backlog of cases, as some testing centers have been asked to stop, with some medical professionals who've been tested for the virus still without their reports after 16 days. Even more worrying is the fact that some Ghanaians are not adhering to the preventive measures. Joy News monitoring shows people are not practicing social distancing and are either not wearing face masks at all or are wearing it the wrong way, exposing themselves and others to the virus.
Because now people are dying of hunger and they say it's corona. Let's say the truth.
Fred Smith, Joy News.
So now we can hear from the ranking member of Parliament Health Committee, Kwabena Mintah Kando, who describes as unfortunate that government has left Ghanaians to their fate.
The medical director of the Ghana East Treatment Center has been reported to have stated that the hospital has begun to receive many symptomatic patients as compared to the initial asymptomatic cases. That those who are showing signs of COVID-19 are becoming more than those who are not showing signs. This is contrary to the
We apologize for that. We'll rectify that technical issue there shortly. But we know that in the central region, for instance, 45 health staff of the Winneba Trauma and Specialist Hospital have been asked to go home and self-isolate pending the outcome of their COVID-19 test results. So according to the management of the hospital, the staff have been exposed to a COVID-19 patient who stayed in their facility for a week.
And MF, also in the western region, we are hearing that there are new cases. Let's go there now and speak to Natalia Kwanzaa, who is our correspondent there. Ina, give us the figures, the breakdown of these 96 new cases in the western region.
Yes, so when you come to second Accra, in our case count is 328, and then Sakwa we have 298, with Efia Kwesimintin having 88. So these are the two districts which is topping the region. We still have some pending cases, and there has been some 228 contact traced. There are health workers who have been infected, but the regional administration is not putting out the figures, because now when you go to most of the hospitals OPD, you realize that people are not coming, and because of the stigma associated with this, they feel it's not safe to put out figures of health facilities and the number of health workers who have been infected.
And Ina, also, we understand that the health workers there are finding it quite difficult. Tell us about whether or not they have enough PPEs to manage the situation in the region.
So when you go to some hospitals, they tell you that they don't have enough. But then when you go to the regional health administration and you ask them to, they tell you that there is enough at the medical stores, and so they don't know why the people are complaining. As and when they need, they go give it to them. For example, the testing center here at Sakrade, at the veterinary center, last week when I visited, the doctor over there was telling me that they have shortage of consumables. So on a day, they were planning of testing 300 cases. But because the consumables were not coming as expected, they have to reduce their testing of cases per day. And then when you come to the public as a whole, social distancing is still not adhered to. You realize that 2 weeks ago the markets were closed down, and then people were asked not to sell at the outer perimeter, where some of them were even moved to the Jubilee Park. But when you get there today, these people are back at the outer perimeter. They are still selling. It's like people don't really care, despite the fact that they know that indeed the Western regional case keeps on rising. Now we have 874 cases. We have 10 recovery and then 1 death.
Okay, so we have one more death also in the Western region. Now, do you see the police in town checking whether or not people have face masks and enforcing the protocols and measures outlined by government?
Yes, so you realize that there are some Navy officers together with police and then metro security guards going around. But what happened is, after they have left, these people go back to their normal way of living. After they have checked them, given them warning, and even sometimes just a few strokes, just to let them go by the protocol. When they leave, they go back to what they used to do. For instance, the market women, when they see the CC guards and then the police patrolling, they all carry their stars as if they are running away somewhere. Immediately these people leave, they go back to the place that they've been asked not to come. Despite the fact that they have a strict system now. Now you say there is a double track marketing in Secondary Sakrade. They have those who have the red, yellow, and green cards. But it would amaze you that every day the market is packed and people are just roaming around the outer perimeter where they've been asked not to sell.
Ina, thank you very much for bringing us up to speed on the situation in the Western region. We can now go back and hear from the ranking member on the Health Committee of Parliament, Kwabena Akando.
The medical director of the Ga East Treatment Center has been reported to have stated that the hospital has begun to receive many symptomatic patients as compared to the initial asymptomatic cases. That those who are showing signs of COVID-19 are becoming more than those who are not showing signs. This is contrary to the government's position that they are doing well in testing and actively identifying people who are asymptomatic. This situation will overwhelm our health system, and mortalities will go beyond the 48 cases. So if we are not very careful, very, very soon, our health system will be overwhelmed as we move to more people showing the symptoms of COVID-19. It has also been reported that 24 health workers have been tested positive for COVID-19 in Infantima municipality, which has affected the staff strength of the directorate. And so we think that government should therefore move beyond lifting of restrictions for political gains and then listen to advice by public health experts on the management of COVID-19 in this country. There should be more action on the ground than the political propaganda. And we think that more resources must be pumped into the combat of COVID-19, especially the resources from COVID-19 fund, should be prudently used to strengthen the health system and ensure that the pandemic is adequately controlled. We think that government at the moment has left all of us to our fate.
And that's the ranking member on the Health Committee of Parliament. Let's go into the phone lines now and speak to virologist at the KCCR, Dr. Michael Owusu. Thank you very much, sir, for your time here on Newsnight. First, I want to ask you what you make of the post-restriction enforcement by government. We were told by the president when he was announcing the easing of the restrictions that would have the police in town. There will be other teams to ensure that people are adhering to social distancing and all the other measures. Drive-through Accra will show that many are not even wearing face masks. What do you make of the situation as we speak?
Yeah, good evening to all your listeners. So, I mean, you are right. You see that the measures, instead of being enforced, it looks as if we are more relying on people to undertake these precautions by themselves, and this is the difficulty. Initially, the president's statement initially was to encourage the public to adhere to these measures, but later on he mentioned that he wanted to enforce and therefore called on all security agencies to ensure that this is done. But then most people that we see around don't seem to adhere to this, and people, it looks like they don't seem to get the message. They feel everything is fine, and then everything is normal. So either they put the nose masks on their head, or some of them hang it around, put it on their hand, on their chin, and they don't seem to take this serious.
With what is happening with the cases going up and the death toll also rising, will this call for a review of strategy?
Exactly. I mean, there has to be a review of strategy. If you have followed through the cases, as at 19th of May, you see from the website that we almost had a 1:1 ratio of contact tracing cases or active surveillance cases to the routine surveillance cases. It was about 3.1% to 3.87%. But as at somewhere in June, you will see that the routine surveillance case, which is a reflection of the hospital case, is about 5.62%. And then the contact tracing, which is a reflection of what is in the community, is about 3.4%. So globally, nationally, you will see that the hospital cases seem to be increasing. So it's not out of place for people who are recording that, this from their facility, that they seem to be getting a lot of hospital cases coming in. For us in our facility, when we started testing, most cases that we were receiving were cases from high-risk population. We had few hospital cases coming in. But as we speak now, most cases that come to the facility are hospital cases, symptomatic cases coming from various places. So you already will see that the number of hospital cases seem to be increasing compared to what we used to record before. And therefore, you will see that the average number of new cases we are getting is somewhere around 300. It's not really declining. It seems to be fluctuating. And the average weekly cases is somewhere a little over 1,000. For June alone, we are having about 1,568 cases within the first week of June, which tells you that the number of new cases seem to be increasing. If we don't adhere to measures well, then things may spiral out of control. So for me, this is the fourth level classified by the Africa CDC or the WHO, where you have the asymptomatic cases have built a base. And now that they have built the base, they will begin to knock off the vulnerable population, which is what we are seeing. So you will not be seeing asymptomatic cases come to the hospital again, but then the vulnerable ones, the elderly people, those who have problems with the immune system, and people who are sick may not be healthy. These are people who are being knocked out of their homes and then trooping to the health facility one after the other. And this should tell us that we need to reorganize our system and channel more resources to health facilities to ensure that adequate testing is done and that people get their results in real time and people are able to at least are taken care of. And also don't forget that, when we started this testing, we were doing the pooling system, which allowed us to test so many people because the prevalence was very low. With the increasing hospital cases now, the pooling is almost irrelevant. It means we are testing each and every individual case. So the testing capacity indirectly is going down, which will mean that we need to add more to what we are doing. We need to augment and increase the number of tests available. We need to open more centers. And like the president said, we want to see the gene expert machines in place to enable us to test as many people as possible so that we don't lose track of this in our community.
I don't know if you're in a position to answer the question about the disbelief we are seeing in town, and especially among people who you'd otherwise think are well educated and should be following this. What can we do possibly to address this issue?
Well, I think that it's important we engage our colleagues in social scientists to come on board to help us communicate properly to the populace. I think that with the announcement of easing of restrictions, people don't seem to get it right, and people feel that it is over. And the case in Africa or maybe in Ghana, in many other places, is running slowly. It's more of a chronic case increase. It's not like the case in the Western world where you have a huge surges in cases which will peak and then begin to decline. It is moving at a slow pace and increase at a slow pace. So people don't seem to be aware. People feel that it is fine. But I think that we need to engage in social scientists to help us explain this properly. I mean, it's a communication problem. Once they get it in their mind, they will begin to respond. But then I think that we communicated from the health professional perspective seem not to be getting down well with the people.
Dr. Michael Ozu, thank you very much for your time here on Newsnight, and he's with the KCCR in Kumasi. And you can send us your views and your comments on our WhatsApp line 0244-340437. Emefa.
Still to come here on Newsnight, 43-year-old breast cancer patient Agnes Dogbe passes on exactly 7 days after we brought you the sad story of her condition.
I have no one to help me. My family has abandoned me. Even the father of my children is nowhere to be found. As I speak to you, my left nipple is totally gone. There's a big sore.
We'll bring you details as Agnes's family abandons her even in death. We have business. George, what's in business?
Third one. I thought we were making progress in raising some money to help the woman.
Of course, about 60,000
Just when it matters.
was raised. It's left with the children. We're looking at how they will survive. I will tell you more after business.
I'll be looking forward to that. Emefa, coming up in business, clearing activities finally picks up marginally at the country's ports after more than a week of serious difficulties, and Bank of Ghana describes recent COVID-19 monetary measures as temporary, hinting of a review when things actually normalizes. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one-stop shop for all your office essentials. And First National Bank, we are the bank that understands your business. First National Bank, how can we help you? And there has been 25 years of offering entrepreneurs the required platform to aid the growth of their businesses.
When you want it, just Momo it. When you tire for the long queue in the supermarket, just Momo it. And when you really want that beautiful new blouse too, just Momo it. And when you won't get that trim, when you will get fresh to impress, you know who, just Momo it. And when you need to pay that your utility bill and domestic staff set, just Momo it. And when you want to send love to the family for back home, just Momo it. So many ways there. When you go use your MTN Momo wallet or make payments with scan to pay. When you go use the QR code, or you go use the merchant ID or on bank POS terminal. You go also transfer money between mobile money wallet and bank account, all on MTN Momo. Enjoy real convenience in all your financial transactions and live life the brighter way with MTN Momo. We are good together. Just Momo it. We're there for you everywhere you go.
We give you nothing but the best. We stay above the rest. More quality, more affordability. Kingdom Books and Stationery. We do. Everybody's going to the one and only shop where customer satisfaction is a guarantee. Kingdom Books and Stationery.
Oh yes, with our 30 days credit facility with no interest charge, free delivery services, and our free consultation on setting up your office, Kingdom Books and Stationery is unmatched in our delivery of quality and affordable office essentials, equipment, and furniture.
Experience
experience world-class customer service in all our branches in Accra, Tema, Kumasi, Cape Coast, and Takoradi.
Call us on 0302-764-101
or visit our website at www.kingdomgh.com.
Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one-stop shop for all office essentials and stationery. Terms and conditions apply.
Joy 99.7 FM.
Welcome back to Business on News. Now, the Bank of Ghana says recent COVID-19 measures will be reviewed when the situation normalizes. The Bank of Ghana, as part of measures to improve liquidity on the market, introduced several regulatory initiatives. Now, these include significant cut in the policy rate, reviewing the percentage of amount of money that the banks can hold at the Bank of Ghana. Speaking at the webinar series on sustainable banking, Second Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Elsie Adawaji, says they are monitoring the market and seeing when these measures can be reviewed.
We were very clear about the fact that the capital and liquidity reliefs we had provided to banks were temporary, okay? And we expect that we would unwind from all of that after COVID. So we're monitoring how they're using that additional liquidity that has come about. And we have told them not to invest that in government. We expect them to transfer all of that to the real sector, and we monitor that on a weekly basis and draw the attention if they're going over, if they're not doing that. But this is not supposed to be a lasting relief. It's meant to be a temporary relief, and at the appropriate time, we will go back to the normal, in that sense, the regulatory normal of where we have set. So these are important. So.
And that's the Second Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Madam Elsie Ado-Awaji. Now, clearance of goods at the country's port appears to be picking up marginally after more than a week of serious difficulties. Now, this is based on the views of some importers that Joy Business has engaged at the Tema port. Adom FM's Kwame Yanka has the rest of the story.
The introduction of Unipass/ICOMS at the various ports has been greeted with mixed reaction from members of the port community. Prior to implementation, simulation exercise at Apawu border, later Takoradi ports, and its subsequent rollout has been a nightmare for some stakeholders. Due to their almost perfect system experience with GCNet and West Blue, some believe there is very little room for mediocrity with the current system. What is happening at this point reminds some of the members of the port community of early days of GCNet and West Blue. Introduction of the paperless system in 2017 remedied some of the challenges at the time. But for others, ICOMS can only be described as work in progress, as expected with every system. Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority, GRA, with all the sensitization and training, believe some stakeholders are just not appreciative of the effort being made for the seamless flow of an end-to-end system. A visit to the port enclave in the last few days mirrors the very fears of some of the stakeholders prior to implementation on the 1st of June this year. Some, who are very optimistic with this very system, believe it is early days yet, but can only hope for the best as the days go by.
And that was correspondent Kwame Yanka. Now, economist Courage Mate is forecasting further hikes in inflation rate before things normalizes. Now, this follows fresh hike in the inflation rate for the month of May, hitting 11.3%. Now, this is the highest since August last year. Now, there are fears that any further hikes could actually disrupt any gains made in the monetary and fiscal space. But Mr. Marty tells Joy Business he expects things to normalize very soon.
We should not be surprised to see a couple more months of increase in the headline inflation. Although what we expect is that the increases should be slower and slower as the month goes by. And as we go further, partly because supply side disruptions persist, also because we are not yet in the harvest season. And again, if you add the other factor of the Bank of Ghana's liquidity injections, the unintended consequences of these liquidity injections, with a boost it will give to demand within the context of supply side shocks and the impacts on price pressures, we should expect some increase in the 1 month or 2 month outlook before it starts to revert downward. And it will start reversing downward when we start experiencing the harvest season coming on board.
And that is economist Courage Mate. let's look at other issues. And research and policy think tank that is Cuts Ghana has warned of negative consequences if government presses ahead with its quest to cut MTN's market dominance. According to Cuts, the move by the National Communications Authority could come with severe consequences for the telecom sector if it continues to actually press this thing ahead because of its impact on the economy. Let's hear from Director of Cuts International, Apawu.
I think, like I said, MTN will scale down their level of investment. They will only be earning rent from their current investment. And when the other firms that are also not investing, probably not also invest further. So the telecom sector will die, and then, to take you an hour to even download a single Gmail because there's no investment in the sector. So I think that the regulator has to be very careful to ensure that whatever action that it takes is taken in a good faith, in a way that will be a win-win for the investor, the industry, and also the consumer.
And that's Director of Cuts International, that is Apawu. And that's all for Business on Newsnight. Back to you, Emefa and Kojo Manu.
Thank you very much, George. Now, let's go through some of your messages that you've sent in via WhatsApp. It's 0244-340-437. We have this one who says, from Eben in Kwabinya, and he says, kudos to the lead counsel of the NDC and his fellow lawyers for good decision they took at the court today. I am happy for the NDC, and everything shows the victory of the NDC is coming again. And this one also says, we will be vigilant at the polling centers and police the ballot box boot for boot come December 7. And we have this one also from Masaudu in Bantama, and he says we are still waiting for the NDC's campaign message and running mates, not the unnecessary war of words against the EC. We
have a story on that. Phyllis Kwachofu has been speaking to that as well. This one from Justice says, if the coronavirus is real, then why are we rushing to open schools and other public workplaces? And that's from Ekpe Justice, aka One Corner, inside Tedby. And if you know that,
Tedby in the Volta region. Yes, I do, please. And then Kwame Abuaji from Cape Coast says the NDC have run away from their own utterances. I thought the NDC said they will not allow the EC to compile the new register, but I'm surprised they didn't choose Relief 1. I thought they would have.
Kofi Intama says the verdict is obvious. The registration will go ahead. What remains is whether to use the old cards or not. Simple. Kofi, let's wait for the courts to decide.
But Emmanuel from Ubash is also saying something else.
Emmanuel says, I do not blame people that much when they are not complying, especially so when you have the whole Minister of Health who has told us that the virus is here to stay with us. I don't really get what...
so Kofi Seidu is also saying that how will Ghanaians believe that the COVID-19 exists when the government, who is supposed to protect us, tell us that we should learn to live with the virus just as we are living with malaria.
I think that people don't get the concept of learning to live with the virus as we have been told.
You need to learn to live with the virus, but you need to observe all the safety protocols that have been put in place. So we've been told that the virus will be with us as long as we don't have a vaccine. So until we get that vaccine, from malaria, for instance, you protect yourself by not, exposing yourself to mosquito bites and all. So with this one,
don't create an environment for mosquitoes to breed and all of that. So in the same vein,
you have to wear your face mask and all, and observe the social distancing. That's why they're telling us that we should learn to live with the virus. It doesn't mean that you should just do anything at all. Once you don't observe the safety protocols, of course, the virus will kill you. And we've heard that 5 people have been buried today. That should scare you enough.
I have no one to help me. My family has abandoned me. Even the father of my children is nowhere to be found. As I speak to you, my left nipple is totally gone. There's a big sore.
So that's the voice of breast cancer patient Agnes Dogbe. Ernest, we've been talking about Agnes for some time now.
Yeah.
It's exactly a week today.
Exactly a week today.
Thursday.
Daniel brought us the story.
And Daniel and Isnam, they come bearing bad news tonight. Just yesterday, you were here, and we're talking about...
We're excited about 60,000 CDs we've raised so far, and a lot more people promising. There was somebody who wanted to take care of the children. As long as he or she can.
Cooked for her over the weekend.
Yeah.
And all. What happened?
Well, like you said, yesterday we came in high spirits, and we came with an update that 60,000 Ghana cedis had been raised. Last Thursday, exactly 7 days ago, was when we brought the story of Agnes Dogbe. She's a 43-year-old mother of two, a 10 and 11-year-old, and she was suffering from breast cancer. When we met Agnes, it was very obvious that she was in pain. She was very, very sick, and we were basically racing against time. We are so grateful. So many people from across the world, as we have been reporting, offered to help Agnes. We immediately, as soon as possible, got her to the hospital. But so she was receiving some form of treatment, and she was rushed to the hospital.
Yeah, she was rushed to the hospital on Monday night. She was complaining of pains in her stomach, so she was admitted. That's after 4 hours of waiting to get a bed for her. She was admitted. She was fine. Then Tuesday, she was sleeping a lot. Yesterday we went to see her. She was still deeply asleep, and it got me a bit worried because my mom died from cancer, and I knew that when they are leaving you, I knew the stages, but we were still praying for a miracle. At least she loved her kids so much, just for God to keep her alive, to take care of her two kids. Help had come in, so she wasn't going to worry about money again and what have you. Only I was in the office this morning when a friend who was taking care of her there called and told me that she had died. I was very, very, very heartbroken. And what struck me about Abigail's story is how she's been abandoned by everyone. Yes, she had friends who came in now and then to take care of her, but it was the kids who were cleaning her, changing her diaper. And then this morning, I had been trying to reach the husband for some time. This morning,
the abandoned husband.
Yes, the husband. Yes, I called him and he told me that he was on his way to the hospital. He hadn't been well. He had had an accident. Actually, I flipped because I thought it was very insensitive on his part. Not somebody's marriage problems, but then when it comes to health, your wife is ill, lying in the hospital. You knew about her state. He wouldn't come to see her. So I flipped and I really gave it to him. It was very unprofessional on my part, really, but I couldn't help it. So at the end of that conversation, he told me that he was going to make time to see her sometime this week. It wasn't too long after that I received a call from my friend that she was no more. We went to the hospital. We called a relative. It took them like 4 hours to get there. Then one sister got in. We called another brother who said that, so we told him that the sister had passed, and he was like, he couldn't come. That was it.
Wow.
Like, okay,
blood brother.
Yeah, blood brother, biological brother. And
she has 5 siblings, apparently.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah, she has. Yeah. She's one of 6 children.
When we met her, she was living in a place with no mattress. They were sleeping on the floor, the bare cemented floor, with her kids. I mean, meals were a rarity in that house. They were living in absolute squalor. The landlord wanted her out. She was in very deplorable state, and to think that help came in and then she's gone.
Well, let's talk about the children now. At this point, what happened?
Yeah, so the boys were put up with a friend.
Yes, we were.
Yes, and
through the kind donations of individuals,
we were able to. I think yesterday as well, I updated.
Yeah, you said that, Daniel.
We were even going to get some books because
and probably
they were interested in history and ICT.
When Daniel and I went to visit, they had told us that they wanted history books and then computer studies books to be studying at home because there's no TV, there's nothing in the room, no radio, no TV, nothing, and they very, very intelligent boys. I was really impressed when I met them.
Did they know about this?
No, they don't. Not yet.
At the moment, they don't. At the moment, they don't. I just want to. First of all, SNM was there is my producer on Prime Morning. She actually found the story online, and made me basically drive down to Waja and look for the story. So I just wanted to acknowledge her. Also, we have raised more than 60,000 Ghana cedis, and we'd first of all like to appeal to listeners and ask their permission that this money be held in trust for the children of Agnes. Of course, this is money that some donations were brought in to go towards healthcare, and so we want to be able to put it in some sort of instrument so that the children are well taken care of and they don't have to worry about it. I'll tell you one thing about Agnes. Her story strikes me because she admitted plainly when she saw the lump, she did not go to the hospital immediately because she was worried about her kids. She was sitting in a hospital when her breast ruptured. It actually burst like when you pop a balloon.
We get it, please.
Yes, and she hid it because she did not want to be admitted to the hospital and leave her kids. In fact, when we spoke to her, the only thing that drove her to tears was the fact that she was worried about her kids' future. If you put it within this context, you get the sense that she actually only accepted to be away from her children when she knew they would be receiving some sort of care. Her children were the single most important thing to her life, and I feel like the best legacy that the best way we can see her off is make sure that these kids are well taken care of, and they do not have to go through some of the difficulties that she did. Thankfully, these are two very intelligent, very precocious, very, very heartwarming young men. One is 10 years old, one is 11 years old. Unfortunately, they've had to grow very quickly because even as of the time we were in the house, SNM, you remember, one of them had set up a coal pot and was fanning the fire. They had basically...
There's nobody.
No, there's no one.
They helped their mother to sit up in the morning and go to the bathroom.
Clean her.
They clean her when she soiled herself. It's that bad. These were two people who were totally abandoned by
10 and 11.
A 10-year-old and an 11-year-old. It's a terrible verdict to be handed when you're at an age where you should be out playing, making mistakes, dirtying your shirt, for your parents to wash it for you and tell you what to do and what not to do, for you to shape your character well. And those are brave young men that we must stand for. Unfortunately, I would have loved to come and tell you today that Agnes is well. She's not. And
one thing that makes me sadder still, the bed I don't know if you saw the same bed frame though, but where she was lying exactly in Kolebu, the 4th floor surgical ward, was the same place my mother was the same bed my mother slept in when the last time we took her to Kolebu before we moved there, for treatment at Feeding Ghana. And then
that must be hard for you.
So yes, it's been an emotionally overwhelming.
Yeah, her voice doesn't shake this much.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
I can't say anymore. But we'll be monitoring how these two boys are faring, and then of course we'll know how it goes. You're always welcome.
May her soul rest in peace.
Yeah, of course.
And may God bless you all.
Amen. Thank you.
It's time for sports, and Benedict has the latest. Benedict.
Well, not the best time to do sports, but we've got to do what we have to do. So I wouldn't have appointed Siki Akono as Black Stars coach if I were GFA President Keto Kukude, according to former Sports Minister Ni Lante Van Der Poel. Now, despite the overwhelming support for Coach Sike's appointment, some hold the view he got the job because of his relationship with the FA President. Well, Honorable Ni Lante insists the appointment gives credence to those views.
Left me alone. I think Ket shouldn't have made that appointment. Thinking that people within football have. People know, people have said that he manages Siki Akono as a person. So it is wrong. It's marks of conflict of interest to have made Siki Akono the coach of the national team. To some extent, I would tend to agree with them, with those people. I have no problem with Ket deciding who should be the coach, and I have no problem with Siki Akono being the coach in the first place, because Siki Akono has been a very wonderful player, and the world over, Gareth Southgate is the coach of England. Karizade is almost Siki Akono's age. When he was playing, Siki Akono was also playing, so I don't have a problem with that. There are other young coaches all over the world who are handling the national teams of the team. For example, Senegal, their coach was Siki Akono's mate. They played together in '92. So I don't really have any problem with Siki Akono being our coach, but for the perception and the whole idea that he's on the books of Ket as manager, as partner, it's marks of conflict, and that is what people are not happy about.
So that's former Sports Minister Ni Lante Van Der Poel. La Liga returns to action tonight, and there's plenty at stake with the title race, European places, and the battle to avoid relegation all wide open. So tonight the first game is between Sevilla and Real Betis at the Ramon Sanchez, and also Tottenham midfielder Dele Alli has been suspended for 1 match by Football Association over a post on social media about coronavirus, and he's also been fined £50,000. Well, tonight on PM Express is football show returns. Yes, football returns. Gary Al Smith will be on with Jim Beglin, Carl Chabalala,
And there's a footballer. You've got to watch it out.
Oh, let the bag out.
Oh, that's why you have to watch.
All right.
At exactly 9 p.m. on
the Joy News
channel.
Thank you very much, Benedict, for sports. We want to lift up your spirits with something rather interesting. Emefa, we have a spotlight, and today we've been putting the spotlight on A.B. Krenzel, whose song contains many controversial lyrics, but also some humor. We leave you with that. My name is Ernest Manu, and I did this with Emefa Apawu.